Hello, and welcome to the Homeland Security Training Institute podcast from the College of DuPage. This is your host, Tom Brady, and every time we do a podcast, we talk a little bit about Homeland Security. We try to make the citizens of the United States more safe and secure, and we talk about issues of the day. Today I'm very excited because our guest is Dr. Rondeau, who is the president here at the College of DuPage. Dr. Rondeau, welcome to the HSTI podcast.
Thank you, Tom.
We're thrilled to have you on, and I want to just start off with, you've now been at the helm here at College of DuPage as president for just over a year. Tell us about your expectations of COD coming in as new president and where you feel the college is today.
Well, I will tell you, Tom, is that this is a great college, and if I were to tell you what was the biggest surprise or revelation, it is how deep and broad this college goes in touching all of our citizens in the entire district. I'll tell you is that the courses, the faculty, there is electricity here, and just this broad offering of courses and information, of for-credit and not-for-credit courses, everything from beer making to physics. It's a great place, and so this is just a fabulous place. And interestingly, I will tell you is that the college is actually on the cutting edge of what I think all community colleges are about, and that is really giving students, no matter what your age is, a head start on higher education.
It seems like College of DuPage has something for everyone. I mean, it really does, and the programs you mentioned are really all outstanding. And if people haven't been to College of DuPage in a while, you really need to come back here because it's a phenomenal facility, and we're really proud to do what we do here. Dr. Rondeau, tell us a little bit about your distinguished career in the Navy, and especially your local connection when you were the commander at the Naval Training Center at Great Lakes.
Well, I made my decision to join the Navy in 1974, and I never looked back. It was an opportunity to lead and to really have a diversity of experience from operational to staff, from strategic thinking to operational application. The breadth and depth of my experiences in the Navy were something to behold. And if you think about it, the Navy was allowing me an opportunity to lead when many other professions were not doing the same thing for women. And so I'm really indebted to the Navy for all of their experiences and for how I grew and learned and was able to perform and lead. And so that was really terrific. You talk about the time when I was up at Great Lakes. Think about the fact that at that time we had 56,000 people who were volunteering to serve in our Navy just after 9/11, and that was the same number for the entire time that I was there. And these bright young people volunteering and walking in, and all kinds of backgrounds and everyone having a story. But what was in common with all of them was the fact that they were volunteering to serve. And no matter what their background was, no matter how diverse they were, no matter what they looked like, talked like, in any way, what was common was their commitment to service. And that was very thrilling. It was exciting. It was inspiring, motivating, but also so important for the country that we do it right. And so we trained well, and we sent out some great people to be sailors in our Navy.
Well, I will say personally, thank you for your service, and it's people like yourself and others that you just mentioned who step up and want to serve the country, and there's nothing more admirable than that. One of the things I wanted to ask you was that when you retired from the Navy in 2012 as Vice Admiral, and could you tell us a little bit about this honor and your greatest memory from the Navy, if you have one, after having served in the Navy for as long as you did? Well,
the honor actually began when I was an ensign, not when I was leaving as a 3-star. The honor was being able to walk in and have the opportunity to have an impact as a leader and to say that I was serving. So the honor does not come at the end of it. It comes at the beginning in my mind. And the honor of being touched by and being able to touch people and teams and mission and to be trusted. I think that's the greatest honor I can talk about, is that in those 38 years of service, every day, somebody was trusting you to do it right. And the honor of that trust is profound. And it did inform me every day that what I did mattered, and that how I was mattered, and how I behaved, and how how I did things really mattered. And so the honor was in one of being trusted and the loyalty that people give back to you. So that was actually, I think, what I would say was my greatest honor. I think you asked me then about what I thought about with my greatest, my most important or impactful opportunity. I had so many different things I did, from Asia to Europe, from all around the United States to Washington, D.C., to the joint world of working with Marines and sailors and soldiers and airmen and Coast Guardsmen and merchant mariners and civilians. I got to tell you, the best part was every day seeing a face of somebody who had committed themselves to service above self, to somebody who had committed himself or herself to doing something that mattered. And that comes in all kinds of shapes and forms and places. So I've got to tell you is that every day was not always good, but every time I had the opportunity to do that, that was just a delight in each case.
Tremendous career. And speaking of military, recently here at the College of DuPage on July 6th, the Robert Miller Homeland Security Education Center was dedicated. Tell us your thoughts on this dedication and the new memorial there for fallen military and public safety personnel who were once students here at the College of DuPage.
When we take on professions that have physical danger, there is a phenomenon in us as to thinking about, will we be courageous at the moment of need? And there's always a question in your mind until it happens. And so that happens with whether or not you're a firefighter or you're a soldier in Afghanistan. Well, you meet the need and the call to be able to not only make the mark and do the mission, but will you do it knowing that you have mortal danger to yourself? And in each case, whether or not it was Staff Sergeant Miller or the firefighters and the law enforcement officers and the others that we were able to honor who were College of DuPage graduates, they met that mark. They were willing to do that. Some of our colleagues survived that mark, and some do not. But to be able to say they made that mark and that they have committed themselves to a profession where that mark is part of the life of that profession, that is a remarkable commitment. And so we honor those who are willing to do that, and we honor those who fell in the midst of that. We also honor those who are living, who want to be able to honor those who fell. So it was just a great day, and it was meaningful to all who were there.
Dr. Rondeau, I know you're very focused on Homeland Security and the overall protection of this country. Do you feel there are areas that we should focus on to make our country more secure?
So when 9/11 happened, I was in Hawaii, and I was actually, we were all there without any airline activity. So you wondered how long that would be for, and it focused your mind on that kind of isolation and that kind of dynamic at that time frame. But then I transferred to Great Lakes, just north of Chicago. And I was put on various committees that were out of Cook County and out of Lake County to look at how we were responding to those kinds of emergencies and those kinds of circumstances. And I was very privileged to work with various officials in Cook and Lake counties to be able to do that. And we came up with some plans and some various ways of addressing these issues. But what struck me was every time I was in the room doing those activities, whether or not it was with 10 people or 1,000 people, and it did vary with those kinds of numbers, that there was a common cause, a common sense of ethos that 9/11 had focused and defined. And everybody was in the room wanting to come to the same solutions that would work. And so whereas normally you would have these people perhaps in competition, opposition, or in some ways not agreeing with each other, and at times just not being able to come to an agreement, these were men and women who were wanting to do their best to compromise and come to common solutions in a culture of willingness, a culture of partnership with each other, a culture of sisterhood and brotherhood that we as Americans had to really solve these issues. And so I think that culture and a sense that this is something that is important to us as a nation and a people, that will drive the solutions, that will drive the resources, that will drive the innovation, imagination, and the creation of solutions. So I think, Tom, frankly, if we as a nation and a people understand that our survival and our prosperity are really important and that they are preeminent to the freedom of us and, frankly, of others, then that will be the cause for the kinds of solutions that we can develop. So I think culture is, frankly, the biggest thing.
I think that's very well said, and I absolutely agree with you. I know that education is a real passion of yours. How important do you feel that education is for professionals working in public safety, and how has training in our country changed? There's been a lot of talk about education and training here recently within the last few years. From your perspective, what is the most important aspect of that, and what do you think's changed in our country?
So I think that there's a couple of different ways of looking at the question about education and public safety. On the one hand, you need to really have professionals who are competent to their skills. So you need electricians, you need utilities experts, you need planning and urban planning experts. Everybody has to come together to be able to truly guarantee public safety in this much more complex society than we have ever had. So we need to have educated professionals who know how to solve problems in their areas of expertise, who are truly competent to the work. So you need to have people who are current in their skills. You need to have people who are modern and able to be on the cutting edge of new knowledge. You need to have seasoned folks who've seen it all and can help you with planning and preparation and those kind of things. So I think that in the complexity of society today, you need to have professionals who are very competent and trained and educated. You also, though, need to have a group of citizens who are educated in what's going on. So learning about your towns, your villages, knowing about the water systems and the environment, knowing about what's going on and where traffic flows, and being aware of the world around you. And I'm not just, if you will forgive me, Tom, not just walking down the sidewalk looking at our iPhones, and I'm as guilty of that as anybody. But that really shuts out our awareness of our community and what's right and what seems a little bit askew and what seems a little bit off and what's on. And you cannot do that just by lifting your head up once in a while. You got to do a scan of all that is around you and have a sense of your own awareness. So educating ourselves in what is important in our villages, our towns, our cities, our farmlands, knowing those things and having a sense of that. So I think that kind of then leads to the training issue, which you asked about, and I see that as, of course, being important. And I think that, frankly, any more interactive learning, active learning, and being engaged in those kinds of learning experiences is what our society is now wanting and needing. It's hardly any more the lecture, although once in a while it might be, but a lot of our training needs to be done with hands-on or experiential and that kind of thing. Let me just say one more thing, though, about public safety. I've learned in my Navy experience that you need to plan for the dark. And what I mean by that is when everything is shut down, when you lose your electricity, you lose your power, you lose your Wi-Fi, you lose your lighting, what happens and how do we know about things? I can recall an argument in the Navy that we no longer needed to teach celestial navigation because who was ever going to use a sextant in the stars? And so for a while we stopped teaching that. Well, after 9/11, we began to teach it again because all of a sudden, and not all of a sudden, but incrementally, Navy leaders began to understand the ship may go dark. The world may go dark. And how do you find your way? So it was both a metaphor as well as a real training issue as to how do you plan for all the things that you depend upon to be gone and still survive. And so I think that in public safety, we need to think about that too, not just about the kinds of sophisticated ways that we will communicate, but also the very basic and rather rudimentary ways in which we will also communicate and plan. So I think that planning for the dark is as important as planning for massive communications and information flows, and both things need to be part of the way that we look at ourselves and our societies, and that also requires some training and some education about those kind of things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Rondeau. And I also want to add in there that self-awareness has got to be the key. When
Absolutely.
People are out and about doing their things that they do with their families or going to places they want to be at. You have to be self-aware of your environment, of where you're at, and you have to be prepared in the event, as you said, things go dark or something bad happens. Because we see that a lot now in our society. And I keep preaching that to people. It's like you got to take your nose out of that phone to see what's going on around you. And I think that's a great point that you made. Yeah. So, Dr. Rondeau, let me kind of close up here with an idea about your feeling about the future of College of DuPage and what your vision is for the College of DuPage.
Well, we're ending this podcast, Tom, and this lovely conversation where we kind of began. You walk on the College of DuPage and you feel seriousness of purpose about learning. And it really is quite notable that when students are here, they're actually spending a lot of time learning and interacting with each other. And the 21st century will bring on new forms of education, new methodologies, new means. We're going to be all kinds of conversation about how much is online, offline, how much do we do in person, and all the things that happen in the conversations about how we learn. But I think that the most important thing is the focus that we must learn. And so we find different kinds of modalities, and frankly, they'll be more individualized than ever in the history of mankind. That my learning is my learning is my learning. And I think that that's a great thing because you can tailor the learning to your learning styles and to your skills and to the gifts that we have. But in the end, learning is also a very communal activity because you got to share your learning in order to really enjoy it and to have others benefit from what you know and what they know. So there's not only the notion of the individual as learner, but the community as learner. And what a better place for that to happen than at a college where community is in the front of the name. So I believe that the 21st century will see this kind of a return to almost, if I might say, a classical Greek kind of thing where it was the lyceum, the small schools, that you had these seminars and conversations with each other about whatever the topic was. You learned from each other, and then you went out to the larger towns and societies and the universities. And I think that that's where we're going. And so I want to be sure that our college is on the cutting edge of that kind of individual focus with a long strategic view about what we are as citizens contributing to the larger world. And I am fully capable of saying and confident in saying that that is where I think the College of DuPage is and will be forevermore, is in that cutting edge of learning.
Well, Dr. Rondeau, I want to thank you for your time to come on the Homeland Security Training Institute podcast today. And I want to also let you know that thank you for being here and being part of our community college and also your leadership. We all appreciate it. We all enjoy you being here, and I look forward to working with you, and everyone else does too, into the future. So thank you so much.
Well, Tom, let me just end this by thanking you. You have brought to the college a focus on Homeland Security and on the things that are important to the survival of our country, and you've done it with a wonderful blend of sophistication, seasoned experience, and frankly, a terrific sense of innovation and forward-leaning thinking, and you've been a leader, and we surely are happy to have you here as the leader of our Homeland Defense work, and we're a better and stronger nation for your commitment to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rondeau. I appreciate that. So I want to thank everyone for listening. We will have another Homeland Security Training Institute, or HSTI, podcast here in the very near future. So make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes. You can subscribe and get all the downloads for all the shows that we do. And we look forward to talking to you next time. So until then, stay safe, everyone.